Hi there, it's Llarold. Yesterday there were some huge changes to the Pantheon Trinkets that dropped from Argus, the end boss of Antorus. As always, the instance isn't out yet and everything could change, but these changes were a big buff for tanks and a good buff for everyone in general. Antorus, the warrior theory crafter and guide author, has tested the crap out of these trinkets on the PTR so that we could have a picture-perfect understanding. He posted about them on Twitter, and Wowhead used his contributions to put out a great article yesterday about exactly how these work. I really want to focus on how this changes things for tanks, but let's quickly go over the trinkets just to make sure we're on the same page. There are 6 trinkets in total, 1 for tanks, 1 for healers, 3 for DPS, and a 6th one usable by everyone. That 6th one is called Aman'Thul's Vision, and it's basically Arcano Crystal 2.0. All of these trinkets have base stats, a proc, and a special affix that says when empowered by the Pantheon, and then something that it will do once it's been empowered by the Pantheon. Prior to yesterday's changes, to activate that empowered by the Pantheon effect, your raid would require 6 separate trinket procs to be active at the same time. So, a tank trinket proc, a healer trinket proc, one of each of the 3 DPS trinket procs, and an Aman'Thul's Vision proc would all have to be active simultaneously. These trinkets work kinda like Voltron. Unfortunately, getting all 6 trinket procs to line up is pretty unlikely. It also really exacerbated problems that a lot of specs had with trinkets. Tanks would greatly prefer Aman'Thul's Vision over Agrimar's Conviction. Aman'Thul's Vision has great stats, a good proc, and a good Pantheon affix, whereas Agrimar's Conviction just had primary stat, an armor proc, and a Pantheon affix that was mostly situationally useful. This basically meant that you had to make a sacrifice and wear a trinket you do not want solely for the good of the group. If you tried to wear the better, more appropriate trinket as a tank, there would be no one to proc the tank trinket component and the whole raid would lose a massive amount of DPS. For my sports fans out there, tanking is kind of like being a goalie. No one notices or cares when you do everything right, only when you screw things up. It's already a tough, thankless job, so piling another sacrifice onto that was too much. Fortunately, yesterday changed everything. Now, instead of requiring 6 unique trinket procs across the raid, you only need 4, of any kind. This means tanks can wear Mark of Agrimar or Aman'Thul's Vision, or even the DPS trinkets, proc them, and still benefit the raid. A few other things were changed to compensate. All of the trinket proc rates were brought down by 40 to 55% to compensate for how much more forgiving the Pantheon is to activate. Also, instead of triggering the Pantheon buff for everyone wearing a Pantheon trinket in the entire raid, now the Pantheon buff only activates for the 4 players who assisted in activating it. The tank trinket received another change yesterday as well. You've already seen it in the tooltips in this video, it now provides versatility instead of armor. Some tanks might argue that this is a nerf or even a lateral move, but I see this as a pure upgrade. It's worth less physical damage reduction, no question, but I firmly believe that the increases to DPS, self-healing, and magic damage reduction are worth more than the lost armor. The Pantheon effect's health increase component was reduced by about 30% as well, but the real value of that to me is really the instant max heal, so it's still fine. The biggest issue with the tank trinket now is that it triggers from taking damage rather than from dealing damage. This can make it weaker when taunting a boss back and forth. It does trigger from stagger and dot effects, so that can go a long way towards keeping the proc rate up. Before I finish up, let me just quickfire answer some of your pressing questions. You can't wear 2 of these trinkets at a time to double up on procs. Sorry, but they are all unique equipped 1. With the number of procs required to trigger the Pantheon buff dropping from 6 to 4, these trinkets became outstanding for Mythic dungeons. I really can't wait to use them. Aman'Thul's Vision is listed as an item level 1000 legendary, but it's not unique with your 2 existing legendaries, just the other 5 Pantheon Trinkets. Argus the Unmaker drops an item called Pantheon's Blessing that you can use to upgrade your Pantheon Trinkets by 5 item levels at a time, all the way up to 1000. The trinkets show in the dungeon journal as dropping from Argus at 940 item level in every difficulty that's not LFR. There's some conjecture that they may just instantly appear in your bags like legendaries or quest items, rather than be actual master lootable pieces of gear. I think that about covers it. Ultra thanks go out to Antorus for all of his great PTR testing and guide writing. If you like Fury Warriors, beards, or burritos, you should definitely follow him on Twitter. Thanks also to Wowhead for supporting both of us. And finally, thank you for watching this video, and hopefully liking and subscribing. Bye.